We're back out here at the Big Lake once again, and today we're talking about those frequent spring storms and the effect they have on bass fishing. Can you really have a great day on the water during post-frontal conditions? Stick around, we're going to talk all about it. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Got him! And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing, and by now, none of us are strangers to the frequent storms that happen during the spring. A lot of times we have a lot of wind during the week. At the best of times, it swirls around and it makes bass fishing that much harder. But a lot of times we get those super strong storms. We get bands of really intense weather that blow through our area and just make a mess of everything. And I know a lot of anglers who say, well, you know, the water's not going to be any good for the next week. Those bass are just not going to bite. But there are ways, if you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to put in the time, there are ways to go out to the water and have very successful days. Today was a post-frontal day here at the Big Lake. Yesterday we had a big storm front come through, and it was a great day on the water. It was a beautiful day. There was very little wind, and it was post-frontal conditions. Now, a lot of times that's going to mean a change in barometric pressure, doesn't it? It means a change in temperature, usually much cooler. It'll make that water cooler because of all the rain that got dumped into it, and it makes that water much more stained because of all the runoff and because of the creeks and whatnot that are filled with mud feeding into the lake. So you're going to have some stain, you're going to have a change in barometric pressure, which is going to upset those fish. So does that mean they're not going to bite? Does that mean things are going to be impossible? Not necessarily. Actually, we had a really good day out on the water today. You just have to do, well, what I commonly say, and that is throw what those bass want to eat. And today, that meant going slow. I know that's not a word that people like. You know, you got your power anglers, and to them, slow is a four-letter word. It's not something they want to have anything to do with. And if you don't like fishing finesse, if you don't want to slow down and go after those bass, well, that doesn't mean you can't catch fish whenever there's a post-frontal condition that comes through. You can actually cover water, and we're going to talk about that. But first and foremost, we're talking about finesse fishing. We're talking about Waco rigs, wacky rigs, something like a fluke, like a soft plastic jerkbait, like this guy here. This is a Strike King caffeine shad. And it doesn't have to be one of these, although these are the ones that I like. I also like the cream jerkbaits. I like Zoom flukes, the salted super flukes, anything like that. I fish that weightless, and I'm fishing it very slowly. I usually fish it on a bait cast setup, 30-pound braid to about a 12-pound leader on a medium heavy powered rod. And for me, that seems to be just about the right setup. It's the sweet spot. But how am I fishing it? Well, I'm fishing it much slower than usually. Usually I'm going to fish it, well, if the water warms up, I'm going to fish it fairly quickly. I'm going to give it some jerks to make it move, and I will let it pause, let it sink down a little bit. But on a day like today, I'm incorporating a lot of dead sticking. I will pop it up, let it move around, and I will let it die all the way down. I will let it sink to the bottom. I'll let it sit there for 5, 10, 15 seconds, and then I will give it a pop again, let it pop back up, let it move around, let it activate under the water a little bit. And a lot of times, almost every single bite that I've gotten, every single time that I do that. Was that a fish?
You spit the hook, it was a bass.
A little bitty one? Do you need me to help you?
No, you spit the hook.
The wife is over there bass fishing, and she almost caught another one, and it spit the hook on her right by the bank. Anyway, I'm leaving that in. A fluke something like a soft plastic jerkbait is a great technique. And the wife and I out here on the water had a magnificent day because, well, we slowed things down. Another thing that we did, and I know you guys are tired of me beating this horse into the ground, but a Waco rig with something like this Zoom trickworm, as something like a Senko. But today, these blood-colored, I believe these are called red core, is what these are called. And these worked immensely well today, as well as the ones that I've been using, which is, well, the birthday cake ones. These are ones that are just white and they've got some colorful flakes in them. This was another one that worked so well for us today, as those bass were, well, they were in a mood to bite as long as you did it on their level, as you did it going really, really slow and dragging it and incorporating a lot of pauses. The Waco rig was the deal. Something like a Wacky rig would definitely be the deal. And something like a NACO rig would be the deal. Ooh. Got him.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yep. Come here, you. Come, quit trying to get away from me. That was on the white worm. Right at a pound, a little bit north of a pound. Nice little bass. We sure do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Oop, and there he went. Now, surprisingly, those bass are actually pulled out into the middle. They've gone a little bit deeper, not far. It's not like they're leaving the creek arm. What they're doing is they're coming out from up under the brush and they're in more the middle of those creek arms. That's where they're located. That's where you're going to be able to find those bass. And a lot of times you can still see them busting up individually. Now, there wasn't really much of a topwater bite today. It's not like I could get that going. But when I put on a Waco rig, whenever I put on a Wacky rig, or whenever I had something like a soft plastic jerkbait, that's what they were responding to. They wanted it slow. They wanted it easy. And that's what they were in a mood to bite. Once you put it down to their level, right? I know a lot of guys who want to power fish, a lot of guys who just want to go fast, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that if that's how you enjoy fishing. But whenever you have post-frontal conditions, you really need to adjust almost everything about your bass fishing. When you get out to the lake, you really need to pay attention to those fine details. If you're seeing current, remember what we talked about, finding those current seams, and you're going to find bass hiding along the backsides of those current seams, especially after something like a storm comes through during post-frontal conditions. You're going to see that's where those bass are really going to be set up. Again, they're going to be pulled out more from the edges. You know, if you've got flooded brush, if you've got docks, if you've got something like that, expect them to be pulled out a little bit deeper water, a little bit more of those creek channels. That's where we've been finding them. That's where other anglers have been telling me that's where they are finding them. It's a great place to start. Now, if you don't want to fish something slow, if you want to fish something faster, if you want to fish something, you know, kind of power fishing, well, I would suggest something like this Jackhammer Stealth. You guys have heard me talk about this before. I use it a lot on this pressured lake, and it does great. It also excels in a time when there's a post-frontal condition because, well, basically you have to be more gentle with those bass. A lot of times they're just not going to want to chase bait. They're still adjusting to the new conditions. They're going to have to get settled, and a lot of times that can take 2, 3, or 4 days, depending on the strength of the storm and how much the water and the local area got messed up. So something like this Jackhammer, you see it's just got that little bitty blade on it, and I like this color because it comes through in that stained water with that chartreuse, which, the bass really don't see that, but to them it's kind of a bright white. But at the same time, it's also got a natural look to it with the green pumpkin. So it fits in with that more gentle nature. It's not something blaring and glaring to them. Now, you can try fishing something like a bubblegum trickworm, but honestly, I haven't had a whole lot of success using those types of things. So, ironic as it sounds, whenever that water gets some stain to it, I'm going as natural as I can, but at the same time, still being visible. I said white is a great color. Those cake worms, those birthday cake colored zoom worms, and that black core, the ones that have this red, and they're almost looking like a blood color. They're the red on the outside that's translucent, and they've got this black core. And these things were money today. If you can find these in your store, I suggest giving them a try. They are absolute money. We killed them on those today. But those are just some of the things that you can think about. Just because it's a post-frontal condition doesn't mean that the fishing is going to be bad. It just means that the fishing is going to be different. If you take the time to adjust what it is that you're doing, if you can find a way to fit into the bass's comfort zone and bring it to them and slow things down even more so than you might already be doing, there's a good chance that you'll be able to have a lot of success when you're out on the water. So there you have it, my tips and tricks for fishing post-frontal conditions. Now, it doesn't mean you can't catch fish, it just means that you have to change things up. But that's a common thing within bass fishing anyway, so it's something that I know you can do. Give it a try, and I think you'll have a lot of success. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.